Welcome to the ZiaWoolz StudioBuzz podcast episode. I have no idea.
We'll find out later.
We'll find out later. My name is Doc, and I am coming to you from Albuquerque in New Mexico, and I am so thrilled and beyond excited because I have a special guest today.
Thanks. My name is Melody, and I'm from Clovis, New Mexico, which is on the eastern side of New Mexico. And my husband had to come today to Albuquerque, and I got to tag along. I'm so excited. My hands are sweating, though I'm a little nervous.
That's fine. It'll go away, I think. It's just going to be so much fun to do a podcast together where we can talk about our project kind of like less having that awkward thing where you talk to a camera.
You get some feedback.
But instead talk to each other.
I'm usually talking to you as I'm listening to your podcast.
I like that idea. Good. Okay, so yes, so we have been looking forward to this for a while, and I'm so glad I could convince you to join me on the podcast.
Thanks for inviting me.
That's great. So where do we want to start? It's been 3 weeks almost since my last episode, and for you, it's the
3 weeks since I watched your last episode.
3 weeks since you watched. So, do you want to start with showing something?
Let's talk about what we're wearing.
Great idea. I am wearing the Farmstead cardigan.
It's pretty.
And it should not have something that peeks out.
Is this your yarn?
This is my yarn. Yeah, it's my worsted yarn, which is called Duke. It's a 100% superwash merino, really soft. And when I knew I wanted to make this cardigan because I love this pattern in the front so much, and so I wanted to have it in a dark green. So I actually ended up naming the colorway like the cardigan name. So this is my Farmstead colorway, which I came up with for the Farmstead cardigan. And the pattern is by Amy, as I put it on the screen.
Well, it's beautiful, and I love how it's lightly variegated. It's so tonal, but the different tones stand out. It's really pretty. But the lace part still shows up really well.
Yeah, this was a little challenging with the what is that called? The front.
A shawl collar?
Yes, I think so too. And it was a very interesting construction because the way you make this part is that you do individual squares that are then connected by...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you attach it after you've knitted everything else?
Yes.
Then you pick up stitches?
Yes. So that was a little challenging, but it turned out okay.
It's gorgeous.
I like it. Yeah. And I don't always need buttons, so this is just something that I like to wear just to throw on, and I don't have to close my cardigans all the time.
I am wearing it's a asymmetrical little poncho, really, but it wears kind of like a shawl that I don't have to fuss with. So I like that a lot. It's did we decide it was called the Gaia?
Gaia.
Yeah. You can find it on Ravelry. The pattern was originally in French, and so some of the pattern was still in French on the English version. So it was a little challenging at times to figure it out, but some of it I just made it up as I went. But I love it, and I think it's in Malabrigo. I think that's what at least this part
It's
is.
super soft.
Archangel, maybe, Malabrigo, and then I can't remember what the purple and the taupe was. Maybe, and I don't remember. So
Yeah. Do you have it on you? Are you good at keeping your project page?
I just started recently. This is not on the
This is
project
not
page.
on,
I need to
yeah.
add it.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it's
But then
not.
you would have to find out what yarns you
Exactly.
used, right?
I think I still. I think I could figure it out, but I really like it. It's my first project that I did in fingering weight, so it was good. So,
Great color choices.
Thank you.
I think.
Thank you.
I love the contrast, and I love that one in there that's so variegated. That
I
one,
love
the one
that.
with the orange. Yeah.
That's the one I
Oh, that
picked
has
first.
purple also.
It
Okay.
does. Has purple
Nice.
and
Yes.
I really like it. It kept my attention with all the different variations of lace and stripes, and so I'm very pleased with it. Of course, there's some changes I make as we do, but
Yes. It's good.
so anyway, I like it a lot. So
Yeah, I love the neckline here. Yeah, I really like that. Once I saw you in this, I thought I really want to make this. And
Thanks.
I think one of the things I would probably also change, I looked at the pattern picture, I would not want it. I mean, because like I said, we don't need that. So we don't need anything too
I think
close.
the pattern had, you could make this larger to make it more of a cowl on top of the shawl, but I didn't want to feel choked.
Yeah.
So, and when I bound off, little tight. So
Oh, okay.
it was before I
this
knew.
is where you ended up. Okay, so you probably picked
I
up
think,
the stitches.
yeah, you have to pick up the stitches and do the neckband. And it was before I knew the stretchy bind off. So I've learned a lot since then.
Yes, as we do. That's a good
That's right.
thing. That's a good thing. Yes.
So what have you been working on? What have you finished?
Well, what have I finished? I am so super excited about having the baby blanket finished.
It's beautiful.
And which I shouldn't even call a baby blanket because it is a hap. That's the true word. And I think this is the right side. The ends are on the back side.
It's just gorgeous. And all of this is yarn that you have spun?
Actually,
The color
only the colored
The color
parts.
part.
Yeah, and the white is a natural white yarn from Brook and Sign Farm, and I'll put that on the screen. It's a Cormo. The yarn is comes from Cormo, and Cormo is a sheep. It's a special kind of sheep which produces very soft fibers, which I love. A lot of crimp, and that's how the fabric is so
It's so
squishy.
pretty. I think it's going to
Yes.
be challenging to block. You're going to use a lot of pins, aren't you?
Yes, I'm going to use a lot of pins. Yeah, my wish was to make a hap stretcher and build that. You know, I think I may have mentioned that, but is that going to happen? I do not think so.
You know, with the hap stretcher, you would, if you made it this size, you could only make baby blankets, right?
Yes.
Hap baby blankets. You'd have to
That's-
have one for a
Yeah.
larger one
Yes.
as well, right?
Well, if you do, I think what I saw online is if the real hap stretchers, you can change the size of them.
Is it, you just put thread through?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But also
So-
the frame itself, I think, varies.
Oh.
Can be the size can be
There's
changed
this
of the
lace
frame.
on the edge.
Yes.
That's really pretty.
Yeah,
What a special baby present.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's a special baby present. And what I love, what I really liked about this was doing something completely new for me. So this was working the applied edge was a completely new technique to me. And I mean, I couldn't say that I shied away from it before, but it was just that nothing ever came up where I thought, oh, I have to do this. And it has an applied lace edge. But it was just the thing to learn, and it's kind of nice when you've been knitting for a long time and you learn something new. Yeah.
I wrote a wedding garter pattern with this kind of stitch on both sides. One, and then the lace or the ribbon goes in between.
Oh.
So it's kind of like that where it goes together. And so that's the only time I've used it. Little bitty needles with lace.
Oh my goodness.
But I really liked it because they're short.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
You feel like you're getting somewhere really fast.
Yes.
You can see
the only
progress.
thing with the size, and if we hold it up, you can see that was a lot of edge.
Yeah, it was. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, and I assume it's going to grow quite a bit.
I bet it will.
Yeah.
It has to, because this lace has to be.
Yeah, even just the lace.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I don't remember if I talked about that before, but I've changed my mind quite a bit on the edge, the way I was going to do it. I initially had my mind set on certain colors, but then once I started the edge, I saw that there's so much variation in the hand-dyed, hand-spun yarn in itself that I don't even need to stick to a certain stripe pattern for the edge. And I was just, what I was doing was I was just using leftovers that I had that matched matched the weight of the blanket of the natural white, and then I ended up fading in the white towards the edge. I don't know if that's the right term, fading it in, but I used those.
Striped it in so it wasn't so harsh at the end.
Exactly, and that worked out fine.
I think you can see that.
That's a great one. Yeah. Thank you.
Looks great.
Fun one. Now I want to make another one.
I want to make one.
Yes,
but
everybody.
I don't want to make a baby blanket. I want to make one for me.
Actually, you know what? That's funny that you say that, because towards the end when I was working on it, I had it on my lap all the time.
Mm-hmm. Where's mine?
Yes, it doesn't. I mean, just barely larger, and it's kind of like just a lap blanket. Yeah. I mean,
I think another thing about this applied edge is where when I bound this off, it's tight. You don't have that edge as much here. It's going to stretch really nicely.
And I do have something else that I'm going to show you later. That is where I had to make sure that also that the edge was not tight, and that worked out. Okay, there is ways. I mean, it's just something. Sometimes it's just nice when the pattern suggests it for you, to make sure you have a stretchy cast off.
And on this pattern, she may have updated it. I messaged her and let her know there was still some French in the English translation, so she may have updated it already. And her name is Isabel, Racette.
Isabel.
Racette, maybe?
You would probably, if she's French, you would say
Raquette. So anyway.
Yeah, good.
So, okay, let's see.
Yes.
What else?
All right.
This is one of my recently completed objects. A finished object, I guess you should say. This is the Snow Castle Shawl by Not Your Average Knit. And I did a test knit for her, and she writes the most detailed, perfect pattern. You would think that it went through a company.
Oh, was this a test knit?
Mm-hmm. This was a test knit, but it's already out. So.
Oh, okay.
And this is all alpaca. One of the brown is what is that alpaca like? Ultra alpaca. And this
soft,
pink
yummy.
is from a local alpaca farm in Clovis called Windrush Farms, I believe.
That's so
And
cool.
I just loved it. The pattern was so much fun to do. And of course, I made a few changes. And it was a test knit, and I asked her if it was okay. But since I had extra of this special alpaca, local alpaca. I wanted to add more to it, so I did. And all the mods that I used are on my, that is on my
that is on your
Ravelry page.
That's nice. So what I find interesting, because stuff like that is so interesting if you work a lot with colors, is look at this. It reads like brown and beige, but I think that's the brown does do that. And once you look closely at the light section,
it's
and
pink.
you
Just
forget
real
about the
light.
brown, that's when you see, hey, that's actually pink and it's so beautifully heathered.
Can you smell it? Oh, I did it. I washed it with chai spice from Tough Woolens. Oh, I love that. It's my favorite wool wash.
Super yummy. So what else what were your modifications?
Well,
can you recall?
Okay, so yes, I put this extra band transition right here to mirror this one. And she didn't have it in her pattern, that part in her pattern, because she was trying to make sure she had used only one skein of each.
Oh, that makes sense.
So I know there's a special word for that, yarn something. Management, there you go, yes.
Oh, sometimes I can think of words.
So anyway, but since I had extra of this, and I don't want just a little bit left over, then I can't do anything with it. So I went ahead and put that extra transition in, and then I did the stripes on the bottom.
Oh, you did those?
Yes, this was her pattern, where a partial bind off where it's stair stepped.
Okay. But did she do that in one color?
She did it in one color. And it looked great in one color. And she had, was able to use one skein of each color. But anyway, like I said,
what a great idea.
And it was so easy to modify for my taste. And the only thing I did when I added that, it was really easy to go into this next section off of my stitch count. Oh, yes. Instead of having to change, I just started where that stitch count was. So it might have been like 3 less rows of this brown part, but such a great pattern. So fun. This is all slip stitch. So easy color work, but doesn't it look hard? It looks very detailed.
Looks hard. It's so funny because I've always wondered how it looks like on the back. If you've wondered too, there you go.
It looks like I did an amazing job with my floats.
Yes. So true. Yes.
So very, very easy pattern to follow. She did a great job. I would highly recommend her patterns because they're well written, very well written.
Do you remember from the top of your head what needle size you used and what weight of yarn that was?
This was DK, and
DK, okay.
And I think I used a 7 for everything but the color work, and I did go up to an 8.
Oh, you did. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that was necessary?
It was necessary for me.
Oh, how interesting! Because I've read about that before, and I always wonder. That feels so odd to me.
And you can't tell
in between to switch the needle size.
You can't tell, but this was getting real pretty. It just seemed tighter than the other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow, I love this. It's such a gorgeous shawl. Great colors for you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So it was a fun knit. So
okay. I think I'm gonna have to all the things you brought today. I'm gonna have to put on into my queue, which already has like 20 pages. My goodness. I was looking at sweater patterns for the fun of it yesterday, and I saw I have 4 pages on Ravelry of just sweaters that I have in my queue.
I haven't. Well, I just emptied my queue recently because it's not something I actually use. I don't.
Oh, really?
I just don't use the queue.
How do you use Ravelry for project planning? Don't use the queue.
I don't use the queue that often. Usually what I do is if I find a pattern that, I really want to knit that pattern, I put it in my cart. And then instead of buying 30, I have right now in my cart 30 patterns, but instead of buying them all and then forgetting about them, I leave them there until I am really looking for a pattern that I wanted to buy. Does that make sense?
You know what? I like hearing how people use Ravelry and how people work with their fiber art. That's super interesting. Like, so if you now are you going to put the hap in your cart?
No, I think I did actually. If it's a pattern that I hear about on Ravelry, or
on a podcast
or Facebook, and I like it, I'll put it in my favorites. And then I try only to put things in my library that I actually buy or actually download.
Okay, and so after purchase, it goes into your library. Okay.
And I try to take it out of my favorites. So,
okay. I could.
But if it gets to the point where I really want to do that one, I usually put it in my cart.
Okay.
So, because there's less there to look at.
Yeah. That's a good way of doing it.
I don't know if it is or not, but
it's as long as it works.
That's right.
When it works, that's what works. Yeah. That's super interesting. Yeah, I'm a queue person. What I favorite is usually just like, say if I see this on your project page and I'm like, oh wow, that's gorgeous. My favoriting means I love what you made. It's not so much, I want to make that. It's more like, I love it. And it goes to me it has the tag gorgeous, that's gorgeous. In my favorites.
Okay.
But then again, I have another category of favorites. So I pretty much only use two. The other one is where I say possible queue.
Oh, okay.
I favorite, and it's usually then it's gorgeous and it's maybe queue. So, but that's a subcategory. So say I look at my shawls in my queue and I'm like, oh dang, I don't really want to make any of these 100 patterns. Then I say, maybe I should check the possible queue shawl patterns or all the possible. Actually, I don't think I categorized the possible queue ones. That was, oh gosh.
I knew you could put them in groups, but when I saw you earlier put a tag, I didn't know you could do tags, so I'll have to look at that closer. That's a good idea.
That really helps me because I did that I think 1 or 2 years ago where everything that's in my queue gets a tag and it is under I'm actually not quite sure if the tag puts it in the subcategory, but I have the tabs on top where I can click on. I have sweaters, cardigans, shawls, I think baby and kids. And with the shawls, I think I have the lace also now. So I could click on lace. Since I started doing a little more lace, I added that because a lot of my shawls have been more like, kind of like what you made or something. Yeah, you can get really...
It's so great. It's so nice that you can personalize it to what you want and how you search.
So many options.
Yeah,
that is true.
So your turn. Put another
My turn.
Finish.
Oh yeah, I'm going to show you something that I sewed because it's something.
She's had all this stuff over here for me that I can't know about until the podcast.
Yeah, and I'm not telling you what it
I keep kind of peeking. What's in here?
Yeah, I sewed something and it's kind of like, how you made something yesterday for your daughter. For me, it's always something that comes up on the day before I go on a trip. And I don't think I mentioned that last time, but I went on college visits with our daughter because coming in fall, she's going to apply for colleges. She's a junior. So last minute, I have no idea how I did it on previous trips, but for me, it was last minute thinking, wait, I need something where I put my iPad in. I have nothing, even though I'm traveling a lot, which was a lie.
That's where a good stash of material and yarn comes in handy, right?
Very true, very true. For me, what I did was made. I ended up making this.
Oh, that's
Let me
really
just show
pretty.
this. Yeah, and
This almost looks like you knitted it and felted it. Did you?
you're guessing something here.
Oh.
You're on the right track. What I did was I love thrift stores. So in a thrift store, I found a wonderful Missoni sweater.
Nice.
And the reason why I remember the brand is because I cut out the label and I put it on the inside of this. So I found the sweater. It was so cute. It was made out of this fabric, pre-felted.
Nice.
I don't know what I was thinking. I was not checking the tag. I just washed the thing and did not realize that it had a wool content, probably because it has all the glitter in it. Maybe that's why I didn't think it was. Maybe it didn't feel
It almost
woolly.
feels like fleece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it didn't feel very woolly, and that's why I threw it in. So, but I still love the fabric so much, and so I kept the sweater, the felted sweater, and I thought I'm going to use it for something.
So you bought it felted, or you washed it and it felted?
Washed it
Got
and
it.
felted,
But that's
yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Because you couldn't
it
have
is
done that
great.
with the sweater.
No, I could not.
This is great.
If I had kept the sweater as a sweater, it would probably be in my daughter's closet, and she would not wear it because it's too colorful for her, I think. And too glittery. I love glitter. So I saw this and I thought, oh great, it has in itself a little bit of a cushioning. And then what I did was I applied batting on the inside. And I think I applied the batting. Oh, wait a minute. How did I do that? Well, this has been 2 weeks that I made this, and I already cannot remember. Oh yes, I attached the batting to the lining.
Okay.
Yes.
So kind of machine quilted it
Yes.
to the lining.
And it was only because I did not have a large piece of batting, and I thought I'm just going to use up the little pieces that I have. So I was going like fast, fast, fast.
And it's on the inside.
It's on the inside. You'd never know. And it was something super easy to make actually, because even where I attached the edge, then when I turned it, I don't know if you sew. What am I even talking about? You must know. I mean, this is kind of like an easy thing. If you have done sewing, you can make a cover for an iPad.
It's just a pillowcase.
It's just a pillowcase. And what's important if you do it for an iPad, and I have learned the hard way, you need to give quite a bit of size-wise.
Yeah,
so it
that's a
still
good point.
fits after you put in the batting. You cannot say, okay, this is how big my iPad is. I need just the seam allowance plus half an inch. You need more if you do
Probably
the
more
padding.
like an inch.
Yeah.
An extra inch.
Yeah.
Very
I
nice.
think so too.
That
Yeah.
looks
And
great.
I was thinking, how am I going to close it? Am I going to do a button and a rubber band or hair tie? But then I had this was actually the edge of the neckband. It was the neckband, yes.
And so since it felted, you were able to just cut it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
What a happy accident.
Happy accident. Yes. Yeah, I'm glad I got this. Yeah.
That's
I
great.
used it, loved it.
I only have one more finished object, and this is I started this project when my son was a senior, 2 years, no, probably before that. I started making Afghans for graduating seniors for kids that my kids grew up with. So they were friends as preschool babies, and all through. Usually, most of the kids they go to church with and have, just have known them forever. So I think I've probably knit through the years, probably about 20 blankets.
That is so amazing.
And I've gotten smarter through the years where now I do holding 3 strands at a time instead of 1. So this year I only had to do 4. And so I think next year I only have to do one, and then no more. Not
Wait,
I'm
who
done.
is that? Oh, next
Next
year's
year
also
is
still
one
gonna be-
more friend that I want
Yes.
to do one for. But this one, I'm not
because
gonna,
this year your daughter.
my
is-
daughter's graduating this
she's
year.
graduating,
Yeah.
yes.
But we had, good friends in between my son graduating, who graduated 2 years ago, good friends in between. So I think I had 7 last year or something. Oh, too much. And
That is
I wish
so
I would never have
amazing.
started
Yeah,
this.
but it's so nice that you.
And
it's
I
so
hope that they
special.
use them.
Yeah.
Once they go off to college, you
Show
you
them
don't
what you
know.
brought.
So-
I mean, because I want to brag with what you
This
made.
one
Not
is
that I can
called the
brag.
Kanzi Throw, and it's a free premiere pattern. I did it with Knit Picks Brava, which is worsted, but I Navajo plied it. Do you know how to do that?
Yeah, it's kind of like a very, very loose chain crochet.
Yeah,
Is that the
very
word?
loose. Exactly.
Very loose.
Yeah,
with
very
super
loose.
long loops.
Yeah, and if you've never done that, you can find a million tutorials on YouTube, but
Yeah.
it makes you only have to use one skein at a time, but you can then knit with 3 strands at a time just out of that one skein.
So what you do is, do you chain ply it before you start?
Do you have a
Knitting?
skein of yarn? No, you do it as you go, and
That's what I thought.
I
Okay.
don't-
Yeah. Actually,
I do have one.
too.
So, I guess really quick, let's see if I can find an in real quick.
I have
Oh, there you
these.
go. Okay. All right, so you would do your slip knot, and then you take that through the slip knot and just make it as long as you can handle, as long as you want.
handle.
And then there is 3 strands. One, maybe you can
Yeah.
see it against my
Yeah.
purple.
Against your sweater. Yeah.
3 there. Okay, so you knit, 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 and then you end up down here and you have this loop. Okay. So then you put your little fingers
got
through the loop, and I don't know if I can hold, I don't know if it feels right. Then you pick up some more. It's basically a crochet chain, and you make another one. And sometimes I will do this and this and this and this, so I don't have to stop knitting. But then you have 3 strands with one skein instead of having to fight with 3 skeins rolling
That's
all
what
over
I was
the
gonna.
place.
That's what I was gonna ask. Do you see an advantage versus?
Huge advantage.
Oh, and I see.
Because it's this one, and I love it. It's great. So that's what I did with this pattern. Now this pattern has 1, 2, 3, 4 different sections in it of Kanzi. So when I did those 4 sections, it wasn't big enough for what I wanted, because I like it to be
Huge.
65 inches, and most of the kids that have graduated the last couple of years have been 6 foot, and so I feel like I need to go to 72 or 74
same.
inches, and so I'm really glad to be almost done with these. But anyway, so this is the pattern I used, and this is the blanket that I
You should touch this thing. It is so squishy.
It's very squishy. This is Knit Picks Brava. It's an acrylic. I usually make them out of acrylic because they are going to college dorm rooms, and who knows how they're going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
So
You know what? Let me turn on the light real quick and
Okay.
see, because it's getting dark and it just thundered. I
yes,
don't know if you
we
heard
might get
that.
some rain here in Albuquerque. Anyway, maybe we can take a picture and you can see. But it was really a fun pattern to knit, and just about the time I got bored with one pattern, it was time to go to the next.
Yeah.
So, and I just got out my stitch dictionary and picked another one that had the same stitch count. Like, I think this was, it could be 4, and I think you're backwards.
Backwards. Still looks pretty. Wow.
I think it was 4 stitch count plus whatever. Anyway, so very easy.
Beautiful.
And it's done. So that's for one of our graduates this year.
When
I'm not
do
going
they
to
get
tell
it?
you who, because then it would, just in case they happen to watch it.
When do they get it? Like after graduation?
Their graduation parties.
Oh,
I'll take them to their graduation parties. So,
nice.
and I have 3 done, and I have 1 more that I'm doing, and the last one I'm doing is for my daughter who's graduating this year. And do you want me to go ahead and show that and get it over with? Okay, since it's in the same.
Not to get it over with, but out of interest.
This is
Let's
called
see it.
Kirkstall by Rowan, and it is all slip stitch. And it is, I also made this out, or am making this out of Knit Picks Brava, and she's going to West Texas A&M in Canyon, Texas next year, and their colors are maroon and white. And so I threw in gray as well, because I think maroon and white is just too harsh together. I just had to have another medium
really
color in
beautiful.
there.
Yeah,
But
very nice combination.
Knit Picks Brava. It's a good workhorse yarn, and it's pretty inexpensive. And they always have enough to do a whole blanket.
Nice.
Like, I find in Clovis, and Hobby Lobby may not be like this everywhere, but if I'm looking for acrylic yarn and I go to Hobby Lobby, I can find 5 skeins. Well, you can't do a blanket out of 5 skeins. So
how many do you need? I mean, how many of each color did you get for this?
well, actually I bought 20, 10, and 10, not knowing what I was going to do, because my daughter has definite dislikes and likes, and I wanted to make sure I had enough for whatever, because you want to buy your color lot all at the same time so they match. And they usually do really large runs, so you can get a lot. But I have discovered that I can do 4 of these squares I can get 4 squares out of each one. So I'm not going to need all that yarn. I'll have to figure out something else.
Figure out something,
But,
even though you're going to be well, you can maybe use them for next year's blanket somehow.
One more blanket I'm doing. Maybe it will be maroon somehow. So I decided to do, this had the white as the background color, and I decided to do maroon as the background color. And then gray will be 1 square, and then maroon and white will be another square. And so the original
But you're
pattern,
not holding this double, right?
no,
Not for this one.
This is my daughter's, so
Yes.
I spend a little more time on my daughter's. I did on my son's too, but this pattern is written where you do individual squares like this. And so I did the individual square, I cast off, and I started another square, and I thought, I could do this in strips. I don't have to. So
Once you figured it out.
yeah, so I have this going in strips now.
Yes, that's smart.
And then I have half of the seaming to do. Unless I can figure out how to pick up my stitches on the side when I knit over. And I'll definitely try that. So, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more.
I know it can be done, but will it have the look of it?
Yes.
It's not going to look like that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't on this pattern either. It has the solid band, and then it has like every other color. And it looks just like the pattern, but I'm wondering if maybe I can figure out how to pick it up so I don't have to seam all that. Wouldn't that be
But
good?
you could just crochet it together. You crochet,
I
right?
could. Mm-hmm.
I think that's what my mother always
I could do
My
that.
mother does that a lot when she was.
And just do like
probably her go-to thing. Maybe you
slip
would have
stitch,
to, or you could even, well, because you need to. It looks like you need a bit more of the maroon on this
Well,
edge,
if you look at the pattern, look at that real closely.
Yeah.
It just butts
thinner.
up. It is a little bit thinner, but I think
in one direction.
it butts these up together.
Yeah.
And it would, once it's laying flat, they're kind of rolling.
Yeah.
Once it's laying flat, I think it's going to be, of course it's not going to be solid, but that it's not supposed to be. I think it will be close to the same.
Yeah. I think crochet is going to be a good bet. You definitely should try that.
I'll
if the crochet
try
works.
first to pick it up so I don't have to do anything after it's done, but we'll see. Anyway, so that's my last one for blankets this year, and I'm so excited because there are so many more things I want to knit than blankets.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I feel you. I've set mine aside. You know that I talked about them a little while ago, but now it's all the other things that have. I feel like a Dory. It's like, oh,
Just
and then
keep
it's, oh,
knitting.
look at this. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Too many nice patterns. Yes. So one of the things, and I didn't even bring the pattern, I believe, but one of the things that I have made since the last podcast is that a lacy shrug.
Is that what it's called, lacy shrug or shoulder shrug?
I will get the pattern. It is called the Cascade Shoulder Cowl in light fingering.
It's pretty.
Oh, it's not a very good picture, and I don't feel that any of the pictures online did this justice. So I hadn't started this yet. I wanted to make it out of ZiaWoolz, one of my own yarns, because this is supposed to be done with a light fingering, and I know my Sugarloaf yarn is light fingering, so I wanted to make it in pink. I changed my mind on the color. I wanted not to do beads. I changed my mind on the beads, which I just love in the end, because for me it meant that, for one, I did the applied lace edge for the very first time. I learned that, but also I learned the beads for this.
I've never done beads either. I have a friend who does beads with lace weight, and they're teeny tiny, and she threads them all on.
Oh, she does it. Oh, yes. I bet you have to do that. Oh, you can do that way. Oh, that would be so nice too. Now you're giving me more ideas. Well, I did the way where you put the bead on your very fine crochet hook, and then you pull the stitch, the knit stitch, through the bead. And then the way you work it in, and I don't know if that's a standard, but that's just the way it was done for this. You pull the stitch through the bead, and then you do an SSK with this stitch. So you pull, you knit,
So you're putting actually an extra stitch that you're combining. Okay.
The other way around.
Okay.
The bead goes on one stitch in your knitting, and then you pull that stitch with the bead over the next one. So you knit the next stitch, and that beaded stitch goes over this one. And before you do a yarn over to compensate, of course. Okay. But I didn't do it. I changed.
As we do.
I changed quite a bit because, like I said, I didn't want this to be too.
Friffy is my word.
Friffy, foo-foo, fee-fee, fa-fa. But then I realized it's probably going to be nice to have the beads, because then it gets a little drape with that.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Weights it down a little.
So I think in the pattern, the beads go along this whole pattern repeat. And you can't see that, but there's a lot of yarn overs that yarn overs and knit two togethers that form a shape, and so you would have the beads along this, which I didn't want. That was too much. That's a lot of work. I'm telling you.
All along?
Only the first pattern
Okay.
section. But still, that takes a lot of time.
That would make it so heavy.
It would make it very heavy.
It might be a skirt
too.
by the time you're done.
It looks like a skirt. Yeah, we can actually hold it
if you have
up.
all those beads on it. It's really pretty.
It looks kind of like a skirt, doesn't
so
it?
did you, this looks a lot bigger, like it goes further down.
Well.
Did you make it smaller?
Here's another modification that I made. So I did not want to use the large needle size that was given in the pattern. So I thought 5mm needles was my maximum where I wanted to go. So that's what I chose. So I already added stitches I already knew I was going to need more stitches than were given in the pattern. And this is a free pattern, so I'm not giving away too much. But I initially started by casting on 78 stitches, which is, if I remember correctly, I think she may have used 60 in her pattern. Okay. So I thought,
so just
quite a bit more.
Repeats, several more repeats. Yes. No?
Wrong. She casts on 78. Free pattern. Doesn't matter that I say this. Make this because it's gorgeous. I cast on 96 and I will put my modifications onto my project page. So if you want to make this, you will find it there. The thing is that there are no charts. I made my own charts.
You know what? I did the same thing for this pattern because there wasn't a chart. Yeah, so I just made up my own chart. I don't understand some things not having charts.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. So this was a big help, even though in the end it turned out this is such an easy lace pattern that you don't even really, I mean, I knit it from my head because it's just so easy.
It's really pretty.
But you know what I did? I marked every pattern repeat with a stitch marker, which helps me.
I have to do that.
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, I'll get them mixed up.
Yes.
I think when I make my own chart, it kind of concretes that pattern in my head.
Good point. Good point. You tend to understand it more then. Yes.
Yeah. Really pretty.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, do you wear it on your like a cowl up here, or do you like to put it on your shoulders?
Well, here's the story. That's why I gave it more stitches, but in the end, it was still not big enough for me. So this ends here for me if I put it on, and it's not what I like. So I really want it very loosely the way it's on that picture, on the pattern picture. So I started a new one. Oh, and that's where we go into the works in progress. So I'm gonna just add that on.
What needle size does the pattern originally call for?
I'm gonna look it up real quick. I want to say at least 5.5 millimeters, but not alone did I go down a needle size.
For me, what size is that?
Maybe I can figure it out by here.
Size 10.
Oh, size 10. Oh, she has even larger. Not 5.5, but 6 millimeters. So size 10.
10 on.
So I went down to 5 millimeters.
That is really, it's almost gauzy.
Yes. Yeah. I like that. I mean, it's okay, but so I went down to 5 millimeters, plus I'm a tight knitter. So that probably added a little more.
You know, I think this is a perfect weight.
Yeah.
When I'm doing, if I go too big on a needle and I'm doing lace, I can't see what I'm knitting because you lose the pattern, and it might turn out okay in the end, but when I'm trying to read my knitting, I have a really hard time.
Yeah, because it's like
loose.
all
it's
loose,
all over the place.
Loose. Yes, I agree. I liked it. I did not even expect to like it as much as I do, because I thought, well, I'll go with a pattern, but then I give it my own spin, at
Right.
least a little bit, go down a little bit, but it's okay the way it was. Oh, and I do need to
wait to try
tell,
it on.
it has also more beads on the bottom. I changed the edge completely because it rolled a lot, and so I thought I didn't want to necessarily do as many beads as I did, but I did at the end of that row of yarn overs, I already did one bead. Oh, this is too hard to show. But then I did, when I cast off with a stretchy bind off, I did every other time where I did the yarn overs. Where I did not the yarn overs, where I pulled it. I think you knit. I never can remember this. So let's not talk about it in detail. But every other time with whatever I did, I put in a bead. Not every single time.
It looks
but
great.
every other time. And I think it needs it because there's no pearl. Yeah, there's no pearl. And I need to tell you, I have to take pictures with my daughter because, of course, it fits her perfectly. Oh. So it's actually a size small, and where I need a size medium. So, and this is where it brings me to the next one, because this is completely my own.
It's beautiful.
It is inspired by this, but it's
got
my
dag
own
spin.
It's got the dag spin, yes. And one thing that I wanted to mention about the Sugarloaf yarn, it has a yardage is the word. The yardage is 560 per 4 ounces.
That's a lot of knitting.
So that's a lot of knitting, but that happened fast, really. I actually knitted on the trip sometimes while I was walking, when it was kind of like slow walking.
I don't have walking and knitting down yet.
Well, it's probably more like standing, knitting, walking. I don't know.
Tripping.
I know. Oh yes, I know one campus that we walked over. It was LMU. I got all the short versions of the university names down now. So this one was LMU, Loyola Marymount.
Okay.
In LA, I think.
Sounds like a scary place to go to school to me.
I couldn't agree more. Our kids are very different, but that's where I knitted on this. And then also I knitted on at the USS Hornet in San Francisco. Yeah. Cool. Because of course it took my husband so much more time to look at the whole thing. So I got a lot of that done. Yeah, I still have quite a bit. I haven't weighed this, so I don't know how much I have left over, but I'll just see how far along I get with the next one. Put that in one of your
blankets.
I can. And this is the new color. So this is the pink skein that I showed last time, and it's a one of a kind, and I know there must be neon in it because it doesn't even show that much how variegated it is in the ball, but it has very beautiful light spots. It has neon pink. It has even some blackish speckles. I really love working with it. And what I did with this, I went through my pattern books and thought, which patterns could I modify to grow where it's easy to have them growing.
Oh, okay.
And I changed the top edge by adding a purl row. So that will help it from curling? Is that help it from curling too much? Because I feel like it almost hides the beads then if it rolls, if the edge rolls. And if you're going to spend that much time putting beads in, you want them to show by golly. I'm telling you, it takes you a long time. I mean, it's not too bad because it's just one round, but it takes time. So
So this is
what
the top?
Yeah, we can pull
I
it
don't want to
apart.
pull it off.
No, you can, but you can pull it apart so you can see. It's kind of like a zigzag. Oh, you know what?
You can almost see it.
Yeah, hold it so it's in front of the wall. The wall is kind of okay.
Yeah,
So
it's really pretty. I think the pattern, your pattern stands out. It's more defined.
I'm kind of like.
I like it.
I like the way it is. I loved that that's what caught my eye in the pattern book, that double row of yarn overs. Yay!
Yeah.
I think you can see a little bit.
I think so too.
Okay.
Most people have big screens. I can watch it.
Yeah, I think so. That's a scary thought. You shouldn't have said that.
You're like this.
Sometimes
big.
people send pictures like Debbie, you're one of those where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm humongous on this giant screen. I don't want to see myself that big.
Well, you look great.
But you're going to see I mean, at least that's what matters, right? The knitting.
It's really pretty.
So I am so in love with this. I just hope that with the added stitches, so I have, now this is another one that I didn't bring here, but I'm sure I cast on 120 stitches for this one. And I can't remember how many beads I put in, but kind of like every 5 or 4 stitches is a bead.
Use some of that, try-on tubing. Have you heard of that?
I know what you mean. Kind of like what the people make the plastic wrap bracelets from. I think that's similar stuff.
It seems like it's like tubing from a oxygen machine is kind of what it.
Oh, even
and
bigger.
you just put it through. I mean, tiny. It would fit over your needle, and you can weave it through and then try it on. But if you just kept going and making more rounds, would it? I mean, it will be
grow.
Longer.
This grows in a similar ratio than the green one. So I'm thinking that this should fit me.
Oh, yeah.
This should be my size.
That'd be great.
And honestly, I want to make these in all sizes. And I can't wait to take a nice picture. I took a picture of my daughter in the green one, and it looks just so gorgeous. And the way you want it is you want the fabric to end kind of like where yours ends here, and then you want it to be loose here because it's not supposed to be warming, but it's more like a decorative thing.
Well, and if you go too much lower, then you're bound.
Yeah,
you can't move.
You don't want this. Yes. And I'm very surprised, but Fiona actually, she already said that she would wear this in a gray color.
That's quite a compliment for a high school student.
That's what I think too. Yes. And I mean, honestly, I want to make these in all the colors. I want to have a rainbow of these. I've already
for your shop, so people can try on.
For the shop, for myself to wear.
Nice.
I want to wear one of these in a different color every day at Fiber Arts Fiesta in May. And I hope that everybody's going to love this as much as I do.
Are you going to write it up?
I think I'm going to write this up. And I know, I don't know how to word this, but I feel a little bit awkward about saying that I made this before I came up with this. So it's very much inspired by something that is very similar, but I can say this is a free pattern, and I am thinking once I write this up, I will not charge anything for it.
And you could always give credit to this pattern.
That is true. That is true. Yeah. It's such an old one too.
You know what? You could make this in linen.
That is very true. Like the bamboo that I had, like really make it soft. Oh, this is 5 years old. Yeah, that's pretty old for a knitting pattern. Yeah. Yeah, very exciting.
Very nice.
I can't stop working on this. Also because the yarn is just so fun. It has so many variations. Like I said,
lots of personality.
Yeah. Can't wait. And then, as you can imagine, it changes so much once you block it.
Yes.
Once I cast off this one, I normally weave in my ends before, even though I know you're not supposed to. But in this case,
you're not supposed to weave them in before you block it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I
Really?
read that a lot. I always weave in because once I block, I want to be done with that sucker.
I did not know that. Do you know what the reasoning is?
Because you may pull the garment or your knitted piece, and then the ends may start reappearing where you didn't want them.
Okay.
But I think then I'll just make them disappear again.
I did not know that. Good
In
to
this
know.
case, it doesn't matter because I don't ever do it. I always do it before because, like I said, I want to block and be done with it.
Mhm.
But in this case of the green one, I couldn't wait. I was like, I cast off. I was on the way to bed, and I threw it in water. Swish, swish, swish. I laid it out because, and then in the morning it was dry. Yeah,
Well, it's
or
gorgeous.
kind of like a little bit more.
Well,
not
I'm
just
sorry
the
it doesn't fit, but I think you're going to end up with the one you love even more.
I think so too. And the pink one was originally for
Mhm.
me. Yeah, you know how I
That's
said
your
that
color.
last podcast? I said, oh, that pink is what I'm going to do for myself. Yeah. So the next one is, and I will hopefully have some pictures, but I want to put in I want to make a gray one for Fiona. And of course, I'm going to have her try on this one. So
So you can
maybe
see
even that one
yeah.
works for her. Maybe, I mean, the green worked for her, but maybe she likes it even a little bit looser. We'll see. But then, so I make a gray one for her.
So
And then I already started a new colorway, which I came up with yesterday. Where I want to make that. Then I want to have an orange one.
Oh, of
Pale
course.
orange.
Now, so would you just take out pattern repeats? Is that to make it smaller or add
Yeah.
pattern repeats?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
Good.
I have that gray that I want to use. Oh, I have the orange. What's next? I might like a gray one too.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever.
I think gray with fun color speckles like my socks.
Oh my
I have on
goodness.
my
Yeah,
feet.
that is true. The socks. Yeah, we're not doing gymnastics for
No. I have a couple of works in progress that I brought. Do you have other works in
No,
progress?
go ahead.
Okay, so this is my first 2 at a time pair of socks, and I'm really liking it. I'm glad that I finally tried it after encouragement from Christy and Amy and Debbie. And anyway, hi! I wish you guys were here. We could have some fun. We could get into some trouble, yarn trouble. Anyway, but I've really, really enjoyed it. And so this is, where did here it is. How did we decide this was said?
We can just hold up
I think it's Quarry fibers, and it's self-striping, and they're such fun colors. This is called, I think, Loomis is what it's handwritten. So anyway, it's beautiful. And so I decided, since I was learning a new technique on, 2 at a time magic loop, I also wanted to learn how to do a heel. I wanted to try Eye of Partridge and Dutch heel. And so I got this book out and started using it and thought this has a bunch of different cuffs and all kinds of stuff. So I can only recommend this book to a point because, it had horrible mistakes in it. So I started knitting it, and I'm like, this is not working. Take it out, knit it. Not working. Take it out, knit it. This was on the heel. I could not figure it out. And I've knit socks before. I know how to read a pattern. What am I missing? And so I finally found a different pattern that worked, and I thought there's a misprint. So this book's saving grace is at Martindale publisher. They have the corrections that you can print out and glue into your book. And I think there's about 5 different pages that they have that you can correct your book. So Anyway.
Is it meant like that you print and it exactly fits in here?
It exactly fits. And I mean, you can look where I was writing some paper notes before I found the corrections. But yeah, it fits. It looks the same. The pictures are the same. Even the page numbers are the same. So they redeemed themselves. But anyway, so if you have this book, go and get the corrections because it will save yourself a lot of frustration.
Thank goodness you found out about that option because it makes you doubt your sanity, right?
It
and
does.
your abilities as a
I
knitter.
know. I asked several people and you said just do exactly what it says. I'm like, I am. It's not working. But anyway, so I'm a real knitter now. Magic loop 2 at a time.
Do you ever do toe-up socks?
I've never done toe-up socks. So maybe another day.
That's when you're back together with Debbie and Amy I can't remember.
I think Debbie does toe up.
We did the retreat. We spent a lot of time at the New Mexico knitting retreat with Isabel Kramer last year. That was fun. Just our group and that's why we're referring to these three.
Debbie and Amy, Christy. It was such a good time. Yeah. I hope that we get to do another retreat this year for Knit New Mexico.
Yes, I hope so. I hope it's going to work out. Well, we'll see. Yeah, I'll definitely keep you posted. I hope it's going to work out.
I hope so. So, your turn.
My turn. Yes. When I was traveling, I worked on a pair of socks that I've had on the needles for a long time, but I didn't even bring them because it was minor. The progress. But if you all recall,
it's my favorite bag.
It's my favorite bag too. It's the Coffee Diva bag, and I finally got back to my Isabel Kramer sweater.
Is this the one from the retreat?
No.
Or a different one? Oh. Did you give up on that one?
I don't know. I may. I don't know. I'm very tempted.
Well, if it doesn't bring you joy, then you need to start another one. Yeah, that's pretty.
But on the other hand, I've done so much on it already.
Oh.
And I love the yarn too. But
it's gorgeous yarn.
Is it
Yumi?
I don't know. I always say Yumi. Yuma. No idea. Yumi Isabel Kramer. And
it's such a pretty color. Is this your yarn?
It is. That is my yarn. And sort.
Can you see the lace?
So this starts, it's a top down, starts with a beautiful lace edge. And I am done with the body, and I'm fairly confident I have.
You're not going to give up on this one.
I showed that. Yes, I will not give up on this one. And finally, I am on the vacation. I finished the one sleeve, and then I was tempted to buy needles in a yarn store because I didn't bring the smaller size for the ribbing. But then I thought, whatever, I'm going to make that at home. I'll just work on the other sleeve while I'm on vacation. And since
it's gorgeous.
It's interesting to see it like this. The sleeves look so big, don't they? But I think this fits.
I think it looks really comfortable. Yeah. And did you have to alternate your skeins?
I did alternate skeins in the body. I wanted to because, hand-dyed, especially speckled yarns, I feel like you have to. I dye in batches of 2 skeins, and even though I dyed these 4 skeins up in one
time frame
at the same time, they still come out differently. Yeah. And it's just one thing about, especially about speckling. It
seems like it mixes really well. I don't see...
It's okay. I feel that this sleeve is slightly darker, or I thought so when I started knitting. Yeah, it's a hint darker. Just a bit more. But that I thought
Well,
initially,
just
is
don't
that
walk
gonna...
around with your arms like
Yeah.
this and you'll be fine.
Exactly. Yes, I promise I won't do that. Oh,
It's
so
really pretty.
I gotta put it on and then I'll see if I can. I think that from what I measured, I think I'm ready for the ribbing on this one. And because my gauge was off from the get-go, I knitted size extra large in this. So I would compensate for the differences. And I think it's going to be okay. I think there will be a lot happening when I'm blocking this because as you can see, the yoke is kind of like all wobbly, and so it's going to be nice when this is blocked. Also, I feel like you can totally tell where I took breaks in between because the stitches are kind of looking a little funny.
They'll all block out.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
It's really pretty.
And now I'm really, it's not much, there's not a lot missing here. So,
Very
but
nice.
now, but you know, I'm on that pink thing. That's why, yet again, I have abandoned this for now. But this will be done fairly soon as well. I can't, even though it's going to be warm.
You know, but you never know in
no
New Mexico. You could
incentive.
have snow in May, so.
Yes, that can happen. I did want to say something about this yarn. It's a yarn that has a 10% tencel content.
What is that?
It's definitely a natural material that comes from a plant.
Okay.
It has to go through some kind of a process to make it usable, of course, for something to make it blend into yarn. I cannot tell you more about that, but it's definitely something that gives the yarn extra drape and a little bit of an extra sheen. What I love about the cardigan that I have made with this yarn is that literally it's my most worn garment, but it doesn't show it one bit.
That's
No
nice.
pilling.
So it doesn't peel.
It doesn't pill.
So
it's
does it
so
like
cool.
give it extra strength, you think, or just kind of
Maybe.
holds the fibers together?
Maybe. I know that people use it for socks. I think that Debbie has made socks.
I'll have to try that.
I feel like Debbie has made socks. You can let us know.
Yes, Debbie, let us know.
Let us know how they wear that sock, how it wears as socks, if it's equally durable. Yeah,
Better
I really
yet,
like it.
come and show us.
Come and show us. Yes. Yeah, I think that's the reason why I picked this space for the sweater, because I thought, I should show you that later. I have one sweater that I made with singles yarn. It's a very nice sweater. My design, by the way. I'll bring it another time. But that sweater has like pilling and almost here where you have a lot of friction, it's almost felted. I mean, you can totally tell I haven't worn it in a long time because it bugs me. So I'm looking forward to wearing this one.
That's gorgeous.
And it's the needle size is 3.5 millimeters. Sorry,
That's
again,
okay.
Here we go again. But it's all on my, like I say, oh yeah, I did want to say something else about this. I like that Ravelry, by the way, puts in the US versus
I do
the
too.
millimeter. So on the project page, you see it in the right size. But I wanted to say that I started the sleeves with the circulars, and there's all the stitches fitted on here. I mean, now they're just resting, so because the needle is too big for the slim part of the sleeve. But I have to say, I knit a lot faster with DPNs. I could have done magic loop, of course, which I have never done a sleeve on magic loop.
I haven't either.
Yeah, but once I switched, I got so tired of that because I was so slow, and then I'm
With
like, oh,
this
I'll
one?
just, yeah, with that. And then I thought, oh, I'll just switch to my DPNs, and I was zooming along.
It's, and you've been using DPN since you were a little girl, though.
True. So I've always had it. Never had this awkward feeling like some people do. Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice.
Good. Yeah, that's my other work in progress. Yeah, I didn't show the back of my bag. Of course, it has more coffee on the back.
She always puts, where's your handle? A handle on here, but it has this really pretty velvety stuff inside of her handle.
Yeah, it's kind of like.
And flannel inside.
Yeah.
She puts extra special little touches on her.
But it's always, I'm kind of boring. You know how some people who don't make a lot of bags, they get very fancy in their bag making? I feel like I'm kind of boring because it's all the same. But then again,
I like them.
if you like the handle with the velvet and you get it with every bag, that's kind of a nice thing too. Yeah.
I like it. And this is my favorite print. I have a giant one, a little one.
I got more. Did I tell you that I got more fabric?
No.
I found it again. I was kind of worried because I feel like a lot of people love it very much, so I gotta make more. Oh, I have to show you this. I have this. Can you see? 3.5 millimeters. This is my little elastic needle holder. This is how I keep my DPNs.
So
in this is
they
elastic.
all fit in there. Nice.
All 5 needles fit in there. It has the number because I have a lot of needles, so it's kind of my way of keeping track of them.
That's great.
So I'll find
And then you just stick them all
really
in something.
Yeah.
Great
And
idea.
because I abandoned this in between, I have my tag.
Oh, that's a
with my
great
pattern
idea
name.
too.
So
Because I
what was
usually
in my bag?
pick it up, open it. What's in here? What's in here?
But you have to show your little bag here, which yes,
This
because
is right now.
Really?
I sell a
Talk about it.
pattern. This is I call it my Mimi bag because my it's in honor of in memory of my grandmother, who just loved everything I made for her, and so she was a lot of fun to make things for. And when I was designing this bag, she was in her last days, and it was just to honor her. But it's my notion bag. There's dividers inside that you sew in, and I sell it as a pattern. I don't know if you can see that. And there's pockets all the way around the side. And you've talked about it before, and I'm sure you'll put
I have,
a link or
I'll
something
put it on the screen again.
where you can find it.
Yeah.
But right now, it's just a pattern. I think it's $7.99 or something like that.
But it's,
it's a detailed pattern.
I haven't made my own, but I'm pretty sure you can. I mean, if you are not new to sewing,
It's probably an experienced sewist. There's some interesting steps in it. I had to think a long time how to get the dividers inside, but anyway.
Oh, yes. But the nice thing is I hadn't even thought of using it for 2 socks at a time because I don't use don't do 2 socks at a time except for the one time that I tried. But it's kind of cool that you can use it for that a
The
lot.
pockets
that
inside.
It has 4 individual compartments, but in this one
You can
have
hold
the
the
2
yarn
balls.
into the sides so they don't get tangled up. So that was a happy surprise. I didn't intend for it to be that way when I made it, but that works too. So anyway, they're fun to make. They take a fair bit of time.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I use mine all the time.
I do too.
Seriously, I have it always on the table by the sofa where I knit in the evening.
You like it.
Yeah.
So what's in this bag?
What's in this bag? New stash.
Oh.
I was so excited that I got a chance to go to this yarn store, and it's one I kept saying in Oakley, California. Oakland, of course, in Oakland, right by Berkeley. That's where I mixed up. I think I mixed up Oakland and Berkeley.
Yeah, now I'm going to say it too.
Right?
Berkeley and Oakley.
Yeah. So Oakland has this yarn store which is called A Verb for Keeping Warm. And if you like yarn and you are a visual person and plus maybe a tactile person, this is a place that is just a joy for all the senses. Not just can you, I mean, like in every yarn store, you can walk around and touch all the yarns, but it was just also at the same time such a joy to look at the display. And I'm saying this, I mean, it's a very perfectly arranged place, not quite as neat as Pearl Soho, I feel, but maybe even a little bit more inspiring for hands-on wanting to make something right away. There were spinning wheels, there were color cards at the walls where you could see the different color samples of, because they dye also there. Okay. They have flyers out there with their class schedule. They have a lot of books throughout the store on display where you can purchase books, but also books that refer to things that they show, like finished objects that you may want to knit, and that where you can find patterns in a book. Or also I bought something, let me just start with that.
Your souvenirs.
Which is, that's my souvenirs. At some point, and I know it's probably not going to happen in a long while, but at some point I would like to try natural dyeing, but I don't think I will ever try it on yarn, and that's why I gave away I used to have a book how you dye yarn with that. I don't think that's my thing, because I mean, you know, I love bright colors, and I think I need to be in control of what I get, because I'm very picky. I'm in general a very picky person, so I want to know that when I dye with something that's supposed to look pink,
you like
I know,
recipes.
I want to know how it's going to look like, and I don't think you have that with the natural dyes. However, I would like to dye fabric, so I want to do, now again I'm losing the word. I want to,
or something.
Isn't it called botanical dyes?
No,
goodness, why can't I think of this right now? But it's a technique where you put whole leaves and stuff on your fabric, and you, well, I can't tell you anything about the process, because I believe that you roll up the fabric. I don't know if you boil it. I don't know if you just let it sit there somewhere moist.
So the leaves are what dye the fabric?
The leaves, you will then, once you unroll the fabric, you will have the shape of the leaf on your fabric.
Instead of...
And you don't really, I mean...
So the dye comes from the leaf, not the leaf here, and I spray around it.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how I
That sounds really pretty.
It. But there, yeah. So I got, and because I like wool fabric also, and woven wool fabric, which I use for rug hooking sometimes. I've talked about that before. So I bought the mordants for, actually both, for plant-based and animal-based fabrics. So I can dye cotton.
Okay.
I think, with what I bought. Like I say, I haven't done any research, but I was always wondering, where do I get the mordant? Because you need to have something
that like an acid?
Binds the... I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know what they are. Aluminum potassium sulfate, because they will, it helps the dye from the plant bind to the fabric.
Okay.
And the other one is
we'll have to wait and see what you figure out.
Yes. Let's talk again in 5 years. Well, I'm very excited. So I have these. That was fairly inexpensive. And so I thought, I'm just going to get them now that I have the chance. And I they do have the making magazines there.
Oh.
And making, I don't know much about the magazines. I have to say I was fairly overwhelmed, and I had my mind set on buying some yarn for a sweater, and so I thought, oh, I'm not also going to buy a book then, and no, I'm going to get this at this point, and then I'm going to, when I'm ready to actually really do it, then I'm going to see how I learn and find the right way. I don't know if it's going to be from that book or if there's any information on YouTube or what I'm going to do. Or if I'm going to take a class. I know there's someone in New Mexico, actually in Santa Fe, I believe, who teaches.
That would be fun.
Yeah, it would be really fun. And now I'm going to show you my yarn. Of course, I bought the bag also. I got this little pencil as a gift. A verb for keeping warm, Oakland, California. And I bought this.
Can I show it?
Yes.
How pretty.
Yes.
Is it DK?
It is.
Is that what? Or is
I never know. Is it DK or sport?
they're
to me,
so close to me.
To me,
that
yeah, exactly.
I guess it. I don't know.
I can't tell.
It's a number 3.
Yeah, it's a number 3. And I haven't even looked up on Ravelry how it's classified, but I looked at the yardage. So it has, 100 grams has 274 yards, and it's a heathered minty green.
It's gorgeous.
And yeah, I love it.
Squishy.
Company, what is that? Kelborn Woolens. I love that. You know,
From
can
Peru.
I just say that this was so inexpensive, and it's really soft. I like
It really
how
is
soft it
soft.
is. I mean, it's
fluffy.
not like a merino super duper soft, but I am picky. I don't like scratchy yarn.
Spongy almost.
Yeah, it's I just love the feel. So I was looking at my projects there on the phone, looking up stuff that I have made, kind of like as a reference in terms of the yardage. So I'm hoping that this is going to be just the right amount for a sweater and really inexpensive. I mean, I can say it, 100 grams for $16.50.
That sounds pretty good.
That's a good deal.
So is this just, you'll pick a sweater sometime in the future, or do you already have one picked out?
That's why I went on Ravelry yesterday to look at sweaters, because I knew I had a few that were definitely an option. And when I was in the yarn store, I was wearing my Tolme sweater. I've shown it on the podcast before. It's one that has a textured, kind of like a diamond type of pattern in the front, and it's a top down, and that asks for this weight of yarn, and that's what I used as a reference. So I thought initially I'm gonna just make another Tolme, but then I thought that's so boring. I have 200 sweaters in my queue. I'm gonna make something new. So I was tempted to cast on something new. Then I thought I will be a smart person and finish something before. I know my friend Therese, she's going to be proud of me, because sometimes I whine and I'm like, why you get a sweater done in 2 weeks? And she's like, yeah, that's all she does. Yeah, she just makes one sweater and she gets it done, and then she starts a new one. And that's why she actually finishes things in a fairly quickly.
I told my husband, okay, new rule, I have to finish 2 things and then I can cast on 1 thing.
Seriously?
And he laughed at me.
Oh, yeah. He's a smart man. He knows you well.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was tempted. I haven't even, look at me. I was good. I haven't
You
even
did
balled
great.
up one.
You did great. But you did just get home.
I did just get home. Yeah. I looked at Ravelry already. Maybe I can force myself to finish those sleeves, but to finish the whole Yumi sweater at first. I was just thinking those are similar colors, but this is more green where this is more of a blue, don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah. for sure. You can't tell so much on the camera. Maybe
This
you can tell
will
when you
this will
watch.
knit up so much differently.
Yeah, totally. Also, I have made a cardigan which I never wear because it's made with mohair, and it kind of it's even though I thought it wouldn't matter as a cardigan, but that is a very nice pattern too. It's called the Lady Marble sweater.
I think I remember seeing that. And do you
Yeah,
not
it's a
like the
nice-
mohair because it tickles
It's
or
just
makes it?
not comfortable for me. It scratches, and I don't. But usually you wear something underneath. I don't even know. And I love that mohair. It's a beautiful blue color. Yeah, don't know.
So future knitting, I have.
Future knitting.
brought-
What about you?
I brought.
Also, I see something very colorful. that I
Okay,
wanna
which do you want to see first?
Colorful.
Okay.
Finished. Something or
Well,
whatever.
it's
Maybe
not
it's
finished.
not finished.
It's
Is it
not
already?
finished unless I want a scarf.
Oh my goodness.
So this is
so beautiful.
you know, everybody's doing the granny stitch blanket with all their leftover fingering weight or sock weight. I just don't prefer that look. So
Too
this
many
is called
holes.
yeah,
It has
too
a lot
many
of holes. Yeah.
It's just not a look that is my favorite. But I did find this one, and this stitch is called a double drop stitch. It's crochet. I use a F hook, and basically it is you double crochet twice, chain 2, double crochet. But what makes it, which sounds like a granny stitch, right? But or close to it. But the difference is, you see where those little holes are? Maybe right over my face, you can kind of see. Instead of crocheting around that chain, you go down to the previous row, and so it closes all those holes up. And you,
I love the effect this gives.
I do too. It kind of, I don't know. It just, I really
love
like it.
What
So
is it called again?
double drop stitch, and
drop
you
stitch.
can Google it or you can look it up in Ravelry. I know there's a pattern that I printed off, and it's a scarf or a cowl, and I started with that one, and I may write it up as a blanket. Can you take a guess at this? It's going to be a blanket.
You have to make a blanket.
It's a sock yarn memory blanket. Not going to be a scarf, but at least that's the intention of it at this point. But can you take a guess at how many chains that started with?
Okay, I will give you a guess. I'm saying 373.
Wow, you're close. 347. You did good.
I like these guessing games.
But anyway, that's my take on the granny stitch blanket. I do have a cozy memory, miter stitch blanket going, but I'm really enjoying this one right now.
Nice. What is this? There's a little piece of yarn sticking out.
That's just where I attach it.
How do you join? I mean, don't tell me you're cutting off after you make a knot and cutting off after.
I do
a quarter inch.
What is it called?
I'm thinking of the right words again.
Magic knot, maybe? It's like, okay, so I can give you a demonstration. Okay, well, I pull it really hard. So let me have this arm. Okay, so you're a strand of yarn, and I'm a strand of yarn. This would be knotted around here, and you would knot here, and then we pull.
Okay.
And so as long as this is really tight and this one's really tight, it's not coming out.
I think I probably have trust issues. There's no reason for this. Don't worry about me. I was a very happy child. But seriously, I have people give me recommendations for the corner to corner Afghan on how to do my ends. I just can't make myself do it. I just weave in every single end, and I'm like, oh, whatever, I'll just do it this way.
I may be sorry someday, but in the middle of sewing this, I'm not real sorry. Or knitting it, I don't have all these ends to weave in, but that's what I do. Oh, sorry. You're
Yes.
right.
I just
Crochet.
got scared for a moment. I thought, why
Yeah.
am I? Yeah.
But
Crochet.
that's what I do. And I pull really tight before I trust it. It's not just a loosey-goosey and go on. I really pull that yarn tight and to make sure that it's not going to come apart.
But
And I figure no one else is going to be pulling on this that tight.
Let me ask you a question. But it looks like you're changing colors at the end of each row, or do you do it whatever? I mean, it looks here like you changed.
It depends.
At the end.
I'm trying to use up all my scraps, but so some of these I've done a couple of rows and then changed, and then some just one row, or if I run out in the middle of a row, I'll attach. And I can't see one right now. Maybe right here.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
there you go. You have a little thing sticking out. What if it opens up?
It won't. It won't.
Okay.
And I don't cut it so close that.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, nobody's gonna notice. I just saw it because I thought,
and
what is that?
I will most likely do a chain around here.
I like that.
To cover,
I like it when the edge is kind of, it kind of pulls everything together in a solid color. Or do you have?
I don't know what I'll do.
No plan yet. Yeah.
This is a long time coming, and before it's a blanket.
When did you start
Before it grows up. It's on my Instagram when I started it, but within this winter I started it.
Oh, okay, not too long. Not like 3 years, like
no.
sock memory blanket.
And it goes pretty fast because crochet does move a little faster than knitting does.
And it uses up more yarn.
It does.
It
does. So that's what I'm doing there. And so for future knitting, when I was here for the Knit New Mexico, Dag had a pop-up shop.
That is so funny. I was just looking at that, and I
like that color.
Yeah, I am kind of known for it. That I go to the yarn store and I grab a yarn, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty. Oops, I dyed that.
You have a connection to it. But anyway, so I picked up this yarn, and it's called Aquarius Back to the Roots.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see.
It is hard to see.
Because it's one of those that look like, that's just a brown green. And then you look close.
It has purple and teal and green and brown. And here's some rust. Yeah. And it's just a gorgeous yarn. So I fell in love with it. I haven't
dyed that in a while. I think I have to dye that again.
I think you need to. Yeah. So my plan for it is what's this one called? Ooh. Shoot. What's it called? The Easy One by Joji Locatelli. Anyway, I don't want it to be real boxy. I don't want it to be real big. And my thought on the variation of what I want to do is I want this. This is Malabrigo sock in Cordovan. Yeah, is that Cordovan?
Cordovan.
Yeah. Anyway, I want this across the top, but I want it in like a textured. I want a textured stitch, and then so just across that top part, just probably where you break end for the sleeves. Mm-hmm. Divide for the sleeves, and then this on the bottom.
Oh, she does this one where she attaches the sleeves anyway, so that should be easy to do.
Yeah, so I think I'll do this part in a texture, and then the rest in Dag's yarn, that beautiful green, and I might stripe the sleeves.
Oh, okay. You could also just in the beginning or the whole sleeves?
Probably the whole sleeve, but we'll see.
Well, you can always, you can decide after you see how your how your yarn.
I'm really into stripes right now. But I think those really look pretty together.
I think so too. What a great plan.
You dyed some great yarn.
Did you see that she just came out with a variation on the boxy in a DK and a V-neck?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is all fingering, so.
Yeah, no. But she has, I feel like that, doesn't the boxy have a texture on the top? But we were talking about this.
A little bit, maybe here.
But we were talking about that earlier, that you, as well as I do, we own stitch pattern books, and so you can totally find something that you can use.
It may be as simple. I mean, I looked at the pattern. I think I can do it, even if I have to add a stitch. But even if I do as simple as a seed stitch.
You know, with the drop stitch, the way this is constructed, I don't know, but I'm assuming that she picks up, I'm assuming she just picks up stitches on the side.
I think so too.
That's going to be so easy.
Yeah. I think that the tricky part will be just around the collar, if I do a stitch.
True.
But I think I can figure it out.
You can figure it out. I think so too.
But I think that's all I have. That's all I brought. My husband was like, "You're bringing all of that for a overnight trip?" I had 4 things of yarn stuff and a little bitty overnight bag.
That's the way to travel.
That's right.
I forgot to bring one thing, which I think if you wait for me here for a second, I'm going to get it because it also refers to future knitting.
Yes,
so I want to get it real quick because it's very exciting.
Okay.
I have a new toy.
Whoa. This sounds interesting.
I'm super excited about it. A few months ago already, I bought a knitting machine at a thrift store.
Nice.
And they were selling it for $40, I think. And I don't know anything about knitting machines. And so I didn't want to dish out $40 not knowing if it was complete or if there's parts missing and I may have to dump it. So I asked them and I said if I could take it, look into the box because they have it taped shut, so they let me look in. And it looked like there were a lot of loose parts, so like it might be complete. So I said, is that really the final price? They said they've had it for a long time, so they marked it. They gave it to me for half, for $20, which is really a steal, as I know now. So it's a Brother X something, which is apparently a mid-gauge knitting machine. And the reason why I bought it is that I, from time to time, like to dye sock blanks. And so I thought, oh, that's going to be fun to knit up your own, to make my own sock blanks with the machine, or I can put my kids to work,
Or even your samples of your yarn, how they knit up.
Very true. Samples of the yarn, yeah. Even though I had a friend over recently and she helped me clean the machine and replace there's a thing called the sponge bar, which is essentially a very long spongy strip, and you can totally tell. Now what you do if you don't know anything about a knitting machine, you have a handle and you move this carriage or whatever it's called.
I think that's what it's called.
Back and forth, and this thing at first was very noisy and now it just goes smooth with them after we replace that part. But that's not easy. I mean, you can't just buy a machine and say, oh, I'll replace that. That was very fumbly. So when my friend explained it all to me, so we had some yarn out to make to just play and try out the machine. And so there was one strip that we made because I said, oh, sock thing, and that's the strip that I kept, and we knitted samples. So what you don't know is that the wrong side is facing you when you knit. Oh. You always have the purl stitches towards you. So she showed me a bunch of stuff, which already I cannot quite remember. But this strip of knitted fabric, I thought I'm going to dye that up, and because as you all know, my friends are going to have a baby girl,
Mm.
and it's a rainbow baby, which is going to be born to gay parents. So I thought, I'm going to make a rainbow hat for that baby.
Mm.
So I don't know how the colors are going to be like. This is not going to be rainbow stripes. So I'm thinking there's going to be some kind of a blending happening. And
How about if you did stripe it with a white or a cream?
But don't you think for a baby that's going to be way too much hat? I mean,
Yeah,
if
probably. You wouldn't get all the colors.
Yeah, and I was thinking even with as much as it is, I haven't weighed it. I thought, this is probably the width. This is probably what you need for the baby hat, right? And I was thinking about making another hat, but I think now I'm going to make this one. And so I can use up all the colors. I was thinking I'm going to make one of those pointy elf hats. Something like
a toboggan.
Is that what they call?
I think so.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, so I've dyed some rainbow yarn and on a random test piece of fabric, which was actually, when you look at it closely, you can tell this is where we started with the red, and it's a lot looser, and you have a dial wheel where you can change the setting. And it's just that when you come from hand knitting, you know, the way she said, you have to do a lot of swatching. She explained that to me with machine knitting, because you can't get, when you hand knit, you kind of like, okay, I'm going to be fine. If you're like me, or you make a stamp swatch, because I'm just so
a 1-inch
much.
swatch.
I don't want to waste my yarn, and so to me, she just made a few things. Snap. She said, "You have to swatch. because you cannot tell." I mean, this thing was like that, stretched out like this much, and then when you change the tension, then you get to this. I mean, this is a beautiful fabric. Look at that.
Yeah.
And this is DK my non-superwash DK yarn. Yeah, so I painted this with a paintbrush.
Fun.
Let's see how it turns out. I'm a little disappointed because the orange is not quite that orange. It should be a little lighter. But
It
whatever.
looks orange.
Yeah. That's
Very
that.
nice.
I think
That'll
that
be
was
fun.
really the last thing I have to show, because I was talking about that other baby hat that I meant to make that I still haven't started, and I'm thinking about baby sweaters and I haven't started them, and
You'll get to it.
I'll get to it or not.
This has been fun. Thanks for letting me come on.
I'm so glad you decided to join me. Okay, so yeah.
We need to knit.
We need to knit. That's what we do. And maybe we dye some yarn.
Yes, that'll be fun.
Okay. Well, we definitely have to plan the next time you come back to Albuquerque. You're going to have to join me.
You never know.
This is always fun to share this with someone else. All right. We say our goodbyes.
Okay.
And until we see you again, until I see you again, or you see me again, I hope you will have a good time and make something beautiful, and happy knitting.
Happy knitting.